I was standing in the kitchen of my own estate, holding a tray of expensive cheeses when my phone buzzed in my apron pocket. It was a text from my daughter, Maya, who was sitting just 20 feet away on the patio. I dried my hands and looked at the screen. "Mom, we know this is technically your place, but Brad's parents find it awkward having you hover around. We want some private family time. Please book a room at the Motel 6 in town for the weekend. We'll reimburse you." I stared at the screen, then at the knife on the counter. I replied with one word, "Okay." And then I initiated a sequence of events that would leave my daughter single and homeless before dessert was even served. This is where the story truly begins. Before we dive in, what time is it where you are? Which country are you watching from? Leave a comment and let me know. And please hit that like button and subscribe to become part of Mama Joyce's Chronicles community for more inspiring stories. The autumn air in Napa Valley usually smells like magic: crushed grapes, dry leaves, and old money. But today, on the terrace of Silver Creek Vineyard, the air was thick with something else: pure, unfiltered disrespect. I stood by the sliding glass doors, smoothing down my simple cotton dress. I watched them. My daughter, Maya, was pouring a vintage Cabernet, my vintage Cabernet from 2012, into the glass of a woman who looked like she smelled something bad. That was Linda, my son-in-law's mother. Next to her sat Robert, her husband, who was busy loudly chewing on a breadstick and scrolling through his phone. And then there was Brad, my son-in-law. He was leaned back in my teak chair, the one I hand-oiled every spring, looking at the vineyard rows like he owned them. "This wine has a bit of a sharp aftertaste, doesn't it?" Linda announced, her voice carrying over the gentle rustle of the vines. She swirled the dark red liquid with a bored expression. "Robert, remember that bottle we had in Bordeaux? Now that was wine. This tastes a bit like, well, table wine." "Mm-hmm," Robert grunted, not looking up. "Service is slow, too. Where's the cheese board? I'm starving." My grip tightened on the silver tray in my hands. I had spent 40 years building Silver Creek from a patch of dirt into an award-winning winery. I knew every vine, every barrel, and every blend. That bottle Linda was insulting was worth $400 and had won double gold in Paris. But to them, I wasn't the CEO or the founder. Today, I was just the help. I took a deep breath. "Keep it together, Eleanor," I whispered to myself. "Do it for Maya." I pushed open the screen door and stepped onto the patio. "Here we are," I said, forcing a smile that didn't reach my eyes. "Aged Gouda, honeycomb from our own hives, and prosciutto." I set the heavy tray down on the table. No one said thank you. No one even looked at me. Maya was too busy fixing her hair, checking her reflection in her wine glass. "Mom, finally," Maya sighed, flicking a hand at me. "Linda has been waiting for napkins for like 5 minutes. Can you run back in and grab the linen ones? The paper ones are so tacky." "And ice," Linda added, shaking her glass at me. "This red is too warm. I need ice." I froze. Putting ice in a 2012 Cabernet was a crime, but being treated like a waitress in the house I designed was a felony. "The wine is served at cellar temperature, Linda," I said, my voice calm but firm. "Ice will ruin the profile." Linda let out a sharp, mocking laugh and looked at Maya. "Oh, listen to her, the profile. Maya, darling, tell your mother that the customer is always right, even if she thinks she's a sommelier today." Maya's face flushed pink. She didn't defend me. She didn't say, "Actually, Linda, my mom is one of the most respected winemakers in the state." Instead, she rolled her eyes at me. "Mom, please, just get the ice. Don't make a scene. Brad's parents are used to a certain level of comfort." Brad chimed in, chuckling. "Yeah, Eleanor, just chill out. We're all family here, right? Just grab the ice." I looked at my daughter. I saw the little girl I had raised alone after her father died. I saw the college tuition I paid for, the car I bought her, the down payment on her first condo I provided, and now I saw a stranger in a designer dress I probably paid for too, ashamed of her own mother because I was wearing a simple dress and working hands. "I'll get the ice," I said quietly. I turned my back on them. I walked back into the cool, dim light of the kitchen. My heart was hammering against my ribs, not from exertion, but from a cold, hard anger that was starting to settle in my gut. I stood at the kitchen island, gripping the edge of the granite counter. I could hear them laughing outside. They were laughing at me. "She's quaint, isn't she?" I heard Linda's voice drift in. "Does she actually live here in the main house? I thought you said this was your investment property, Brad." "It basically is," Brad lied smoothly. "She just maintains it for us. She likes feeling useful. You know how old people get." My knuckles turned white. Investment property? Maintains it? I reached for the ice bucket, my hands shaking slightly. I was about to walk back out there to maybe finally say something when my phone buzzed. I pulled it out, a text from Maya. "Mom, we know this is technically your place, but Brad's parents find it awkward having you hover around. We want some private family time. Please book a room at the Motel 6 in town for the weekend. We'll reimburse you. Just go out the back door so you don't disturb lunch." I read it once. I read it twice. The tears that had been threatening to spill suddenly evaporated. The hurt vanished. The motherly instinct to protect my child, to endure anything for her happiness, it snapped like a dry twig. "Motel 6, I whispered to the empty kitchen. "Go out the back door." I looked out the window at the rows of grapes stretching to the horizon, my empire, my life's work, and they wanted to kick me off it like a stray dog so they could play pretend royalty? I didn't reply with a long paragraph. I didn't storm out and scream. I typed, "Okay." Then I opened my contacts. I didn't search for a hotel. I scrolled down to J for Julian. Julian wasn't just my lawyer, he was the meanest, sharpest shark in California real estate law, and he had been begging me to sell the vineyard to a tech billionaire named Cyrus for 6 months. I pressed call. "Eleanor?" Julian answered on the first ring, sounding surprised. "Everything okay?" "Julian," I said, and my voice was as dry as the dirt in the vineyard. "Is Cyrus still in town? Does he still want the property?" "He's at the Four Seasons. He's flying out tonight. And yes, he wants it bad. Why?" "Tell him to bring his checkbook and get here in 45 minutes, I said, staring at the tray of ice melting on the counter. "I'm selling today. Full liquidity, immediate possession." "Are you serious?" Julian gasped. "Eleanor, that's your legacy." "My legacy just asked me to go to a Motel 6. I replied. "Bring the papers, Julian, and tell Cyrus I have a special condition regarding the current occupants." I hung up. I put the phone in my pocket. I grabbed the bowl of ice. I was going back out there, not to serve them, but to watch them burn. If you're loving this story, smash that like button and subscribe for more. I walked back onto the terrace, the silver ice bucket sweating in my hands. The conversation stopped the moment I slid the glass door open. It was that abrupt, guilty silence people have when they've been talking trash about the person who just walked in. "Here is your ice, Linda," I said, my voice steady. I dropped the cubes into her glass with a pair of silver tongs. Clink, clink. Each sound felt like a countdown clock ticking away their time in paradise. "About time," Linda huffed, not even glancing at me. She took a sip, swirling the watered-down wine. "Much better. You know, Maya, when you and Brad officially take over the deed, you really need to hire professional staff. Family help is just so unreliable." I paused, the tongs hovering over the bucket. "Take over the deed?" I looked at Brad. He was leaning forward, pointing at the vineyard rows that stretched out before us, my Cabernet Franc block, the oldest vines on the property. "Actually, Mom," Brad said, addressing his mother, "we're thinking of ripping out those old vines down there. They look kinda gnarly. I want to put in an infinity pool and maybe a small putting green, something modern. This whole rustic farm vibe is a little played out." My stomach dropped. Those gnarly vines were planted by my late husband 40 years ago. They produced our reserve label. And this boy, who couldn't tell a Merlot from a motor oil, wanted to pave them over for a putting green? I looked at Maya. I waited for her to laugh, to tell him he was crazy. Maya knew those vines were the heart of Silver Creek. But Maya just nodded, picking at her prosciutto. "Yeah, it would be great for entertaining, babe. We could host legit parties, not these stuffy tastings Mom does." The betrayal hit me harder than the text message. It wasn't just about the house. It was about erasing me. They were planning my obsolescence right in front of my face, assuming I was too old, too weak, or too stupid to do anything about it. My phone buzzed in my pocket again. Another text from Maya. "Did you book the room? We need you out by 2 p.m. I looked at her. She raised her eyebrows, a silent, "Well?" "I saw your message, Maya," I said aloud. The table went quiet. "Oh," Maya smiled, a fake, tight smile. "Great. So it's just Linda and Robert aren't comfortable with you living in the guest wing while we're trying to have a family bonding weekend." "I understand perfectly," I said. "You want to be the lady of the manor. You want to feel like this is all yours." "It practically is," Brad scoffed, popping a grape into his mouth. "I mean, we handle all the stress, right?" He handled nothing. He was a junior marketing associate who worked from home and mostly played video games. But I didn't correct him, not yet. "I'll go inside and pack. I need about 45 minutes to get my things in order. Is that okay?" 45 minutes is fine," Linda dismissed me with a wave of her hand. "Just try to be gone before we cut the cake. We ordered a special custom cake from the bakery in town. Congratulations on the frosting. We have big news to announce." I didn't ask what the news was. I didn't care. "Enjoy the view, everyone. It really is a $1 million view." 20 million, actually, I thought. I retreated into the house again, but I didn't go to my bedroom to pack a suitcase. I went to my office. I unlocked the safe hidden behind the painting of the vineyard's first harvest. I pulled out the leather-bound folder containing the original deed, the land survey, and the bank statement showing zero debt. I owned it all, free and clear. I sat at my heavy oak desk and waited. I watched the clock on the wall. 1:45 p.m., 1:50 p.m. At 1:55 p.m., the security intercom on my desk buzzed. "Eleanor," the voice crackled. It was Julian, my lawyer. "We're at the gate, and Cyrus is with me. He's eager." "Let them in." I pressed the button. I stood up. I caught a glimpse of myself in the mirror, a tired woman in a simple dress. No, that wouldn't do. I wasn't leaving as the victim. I was leaving as the boss. I grabbed my signature wide-brimmed hat and my oversized sunglasses. I put them on. I looked like the matriarch of a dynasty, not a displaced grandmother. I walked out the front door just as a convoy of 3 black Escalades rolled up the gravel driveway, kicking up dust. The engines were loud, aggressive. On the terrace, I heard the chatter stop. "Who the hell is that?" I heard Brad shout. "Maya, did you order Uber Black or something?" "I didn't order anything." Maya's voice drifted over, sounding panicked. I walked down the steps to meet the cars just as the lead vehicle's door opened. Cyrus stepped out. He was 30 years old, wearing a hoodie worth more than Brad's car, and he looked at my house like a wolf looking at a steak. "Eleanor," Cyrus grinned, spreading his arms, "tell me I'm serious. Tell me I'm not dreaming." "I'm deadly serious, Cyrus," I said, shaking his hand. "Do you have the check?" "Wire transfer is queued up," he tapped his phone. "Julian has the papers. We can sign on the hood of the car right now." "No," I said, turning to face the terrace where my confused family was now gathering at the railing. "I want to sign it on the patio table. I want witnesses." Cyrus followed my gaze to the group of people staring at us with open mouths. He saw the fear in their eyes. He smirked. "I love an audience," he said. We started walking toward the terrace. I could see Maya gripping the railing, her knuckles white. She looked at me, then at the strange men in suits, then back at me. She looked terrified, but she had no idea that the real terror hadn't even started yet. If you're loving this story, smash that like button and subscribe for more.
The sound of our footsteps on the slate tiles echoed like a drumbeat of war. I walked up the stairs first, my head high. Flanking me were Julian, holding a thick leather briefcase, and Cyrus, who was chewing gum and looking around with the swagger of a man who could buy the whole county. Brad jumped up from his chair, wiping crumbs from his mouth. He puffed out his chest, trying to look intimidating in his polo shirt and boat shoes. Whoa, hold on," Brad barked, holding up a hand. "Mom, what is this? We told you we wanted privacy. Who are these people?" Linda peered over her sunglasses, looking Cyrus up and down with pure disgust. "Eleanor, really? You brought technicians now, during our lunch? Tell them to go around to the service entrance." Cyrus stopped chewing his gum. He looked at Linda, then at his own hoodie, then at me. He laughed, a short, sharp sound. "Technician? That's a new one. I usually get called tech bro or that rich jerk, but technician? I like it." "Brad, sit down," I said, my voice cutting through the air like pruning shears. I didn't stop walking until I reached the head of the table, the spot where Maya was sitting. "Mom, you're embarrassing us," Maya hissed, her face turning red. "We have guests. You need to leave, and take your friends with you. We can talk about whatever this is on Monday." "We aren't talking on Monday, Maya," I said calmly. I looked at Cyrus. "Mr. Vance, as you can see, the patio has excellent southern exposure, perfect for those sunset parties." Cyrus nodded, stepping right up to the railing, ignoring Brad completely. "Yeah, I dig it. I'd probably tear down this pergola, though, blocks the light. And these rose bushes, gotta go. I want concrete, minimalism." My heart gave a little squeeze. I loved those roses, but I kept my face stone cold. "Do whatever you want with it. Once the ink is dry, it's your dirt." "Excuse me?" Brad shouted, stepping between me and Cyrus. His face was flushing an ugly shade of purple. "Nobody is tearing down anything. This is my house. Well, my wife's house. Get off my property before I call the cops." Julian, my lawyer, finally stepped forward. He was a small man in a sharp gray suit, but he had the presence of a Doberman. He adjusted his glasses and smiled, a smile that showed way too many teeth. "Actually, young man," Julian said, his voice smooth as silk, "according to the county recorder's office as of 9 a.m. this morning and the title search I just updated, this property belongs solely to Mrs. Eleanor Sterling. There are no other names on the deed, no liens, no trusts." The silence that followed was heavy. The only sound was the wind in the vines and the distant hum of Cyrus's Escalades idling in the driveway. That's a technicality," Maya stammered, her voice trembling. "Mom put it in her name for tax reasons years ago, but it's ours. We live here. We make the decisions." "You live here rent-free," I corrected her, locking eyes with my daughter, "and you make messes, not decisions." I turned to the table, the expensive cheese platter, the half-eaten breadsticks, the wine bottles. "Julian, the papers," I commanded. "Mom, what are you doing?" Maya whispered, standing up slowly. I didn't answer. I reached out and shoved the tray of expensive cheeses to the side. It clattered loudly against a wine glass, nearly knocking it over. Robert jumped, dropping his phone. "Hey!" Robert yelled. "Watch the food!" "Make room," I said coldly. Julian slammed the thick stack of legal documents right onto the center of the table, covering the fancy linen napkins and the spilled crumbs. "This," I said, pointing to the line at the bottom of the page, "is a sales contract. Purchase price, $25 million. Cash. Closing date, today." I pulled a pen from my purse. I looked at Maya, whose face had gone pale white like a ghost. "You wanted me to go to a hotel, Maya? You wanted me out of your hair so you could play pretend with your in-laws?" I clicked the pen. "Wish granted. I'm checking out. Permanently." "You can't," Brad laughed nervously, looking around for support. "This is a prank, right? Linda, tell her she's crazy. She can't just sell the winery while we're eating lunch." I lowered the pen to the paper. "Watch me," I whispered. But just as the tip of the pen touched the paper, Linda stood up. Her chair scraped violently against the stone floor. She wasn't looking at me with disgust anymore. She was looking at the number on the contract Julian had left open. 25 million? She choked out. And then she did something that made my blood run cold. She didn't yell. She didn't scream. She smiled, a greedy, predatory smile directed right at her son. "Brad," she said, her voice dripping with sudden, fake sweetness, "if your mother sells, that means the inheritance comes early, doesn't it?" If you're loving this story, smash that like button and subscribe for more. Linda's eyes were practically spinning like slot machines. She stepped over the crumbs Robert had dropped, ignoring her previous complaints about the heat and the cheap wine. She reached out and actually touched my arm, the same arm she wouldn't even look at 5 minutes ago. "Eleanor, dear," she purred, her voice changing from vinegar to honey instantly. "Put the pen down for a second. Let's think this through. 25 million is a significant amount of liquidity. If you sell now, we need to structure this correctly. For the family." "Structure it?" I repeated, keeping my pen hovering over the signature line. "Well, obviously," Robert chimed in, suddenly interested. He shoved his phone into his pocket. "Capital gains tax will kill you. You need to put that money into a family trust. Brad has a friend in finance. He can manage it. We can keep the principal safe for the grandchildren." I looked at Brad. He was nodding vigorously, the color returning to his face. "Yeah, Mom, exactly. If you sell, we can buy a place in Malibu, something modern, and you can get a nice little condo nearby. We'll take care of you." I laughed. It wasn't a happy laugh. It was a dry, hollow sound that made Cyrus chuckle from behind his sunglasses. "You think," I started, looking at each of them in turn, "you think you're getting this money?" "Well, it's Maya's inheritance," Linda said sharply, her mask slipping a bit. "It's family money. You're old, Eleanor. You don't need millions. You need care. And Brad and Maya are just starting their lives. I am 62, Linda, not 90, and I don't need care, I need respect, something none of you have ever given me." I pressed the pen to the paper. The sound of the nib scratching against the document was louder than the cicadas in the vineyard. "Eleanor Sterling." I signed with a flourish. "No!" Maya screamed, lunging for the table, but Julian blocked her with his briefcase. "Done," I said, capping the pen. "The winery is sold." Cyrus stepped forward and slapped a heavy hand on the table. "Boom! Pleasure doing business, Al." He looked at Brad.
All right, bro, you heard the lady. Property is mine now. My crew is coming in tomorrow to demo the kitchen. I hate granite. You can't do this. Maya was sobbing now, tears ruining her perfect makeup. Where are we supposed to go? Mom, we gave up our apartment in the city because you said we could live here. I said you could stay here while you saved for a house, I corrected her, my voice hard. That was 3 years ago. And instead of saving, you bought a Range Rover. You bought designer handbags. You bought him, I pointed at Brad, a gaming setup worth more than my first car. We have rights, Brad shouted, though he was backing away from Cyrus. Squatters' rights. We've lived here for 30 days. Actually, Julian interjected, pulling another document from his stack, since you never paid rent, never paid utilities, and signed a guest occupancy agreement when you moved in, which I drafted, by the way, you are technically guests, and guests can be asked to leave at any time, specifically, he checked his watch, in 41 minutes. Linda looked at the signed contract, then at me. Her greed was quickly turning into panic. But we have the announcement, the cake, the guests are arriving at 5 p.m. Cancel them, I said, picking up my purse. We can't, Linda shrieked. This was supposed to be the gender reveal party. Maya is pregnant. The air left my lungs. The world stopped spinning for a second. I looked at my daughter. She was clutching for stomach, looking at me with tear-filled eyes. A baby? My grandchild? For a second, my resolve wavered. I looked at the signed papers. I looked at Cyrus, who was texting on his phone, oblivious. A baby changed things. You don't kick a pregnant woman out on the street. Linda saw my hesitation. She saw the grandmother in me waking up, and she pounced. That's right, Linda sneered triumphantly, crossing her arms. She's carrying your grandchild, the heir to whatever's left. You can't throw a pregnant woman out. That's illegal and it's heartless. So tear up that contract, Eleanor, or you'll never see this baby. I looked at Maya's stomach. Then I looked at the wine glass sitting in front of her, the glass of 2012 Cabernet she had been drinking when I walked out, the glass that was now empty. A cold realization washed over me. I stared at the empty crystal glass sitting in front of Maya. A single red drop of wine rolled down the inside of the bowl, settling at the bottom like a tear of blood. Pregnant? I repeated, my voice quiet but sharp enough to cut glass. Yes, Linda shouted, stepping in front of Maya like a bodyguard. She is 2 months along, and you, her own mother, are stressing her out. This is bad for the baby. You need to rip up that contract right now, Eleanor. Do you want to be responsible for a miscarriage? The guilt trip was heavy, designed to crush me. Maya looked down at her lap, her shoulders shaking. For a moment, the silence on the terrace was deafening. Even Cyrus stopped texting. I slowly walked over to the table. I didn't look at Linda. I looked straight at the bottle of 2012 Silver Creek Cabernet. I picked it up. The glass felt heavy and cold in my hand. That's strange, I said, turning the bottle so the label faced Brad and his parents. What is? Brad snapped, wiping sweat from his forehead. Put the wine down, Eleanor. This is our reserve Cabernet, I read the label aloud, enunciating every word. Alcohol content, 14.5%, full-bodied, robust. I looked at Maya. She wouldn't meet my eyes. Maya, I said, leaning in close, are you pregnant, or did you just need a shield because your husband's parents are here and you're about to lose your free ride? Her lip trembled. She looked at Brad, begging him to save her, but Brad just looked confused, his mouth hanging open like a fish. Babe? Brad asked, his voice cracking. You told me. You said the test was positive last week. That's why we ordered the cake. Maya burst into tears, ugly, loud tears. She buried her face in her hands. I thought I was, she wailed. I felt different. But then I got my period yesterday.
I was going to tell you, but then Mom started acting crazy, and I needed leverage." "Leverage?" I stepped back, feeling a wave of nausea that had nothing to do with the heat. "You used a fake grandchild as leverage against your own mother?" "We needed the house," Maya screamed, standing up and knocking her chair over. "Look at us. We can't live in a condo, Mom. Brad is trying to build a brand. We need the estate image. Why are you so selfish? You have everything." "I have nothing," I shouted back, my voice finally breaking. "I have a house full of parasites and a daughter who treats me like a waitress, but not anymore." I turned to Julian. "Give the check to Cyrus. I want the funds verified." "Already done," Cyrus said, holding up his phone. "Money's in your account, Elle. You're rich, and I'm the owner of this, drama theater." I looked at Linda. Her face had gone from smug to purple with rage. She realized the pregnancy card had failed. The money was gone, the house was gone. You monster," Linda hissed at me. "You're evicting us in the middle of lunch?" "No," I said, checking my watch. "Lunch is over. You have 30 minutes remaining. And Mr. Vance here," I nodded at Cyrus, "mentioned he has a demolition crew coming. I suggest you move your cars before they get towed." "This isn't over," Brad yelled, trying to sound tough but looking terrified. "I'm calling the cops. You can't just sell the house under us." "Actually, bro," Cyrus stepped in, crossing his massive arms, "my security team is on the way. Ex-Navy SEALs. They're super polite, but they don't like loiterers. So you can pack or they can pack for you. And trust me, they don't fold clothes." Maya looked at me one last time. "Mom, please, where are we supposed to go?" "I have a reservation," I said coldly. "Motel 6. I hear they leave the light on for you." I turned my back on them and walked toward the sliding glass doors. I needed to get inside. I needed to breathe. But just as I reached the handle, I heard Linda's voice again. It was low, venomous, and directed at Brad. "You idiot," she hissed. "You said she was senile. You said she signed the power of attorney last month." I froze. My hand hovered over the door handle. "Power of attorney?" I turned around slowly. "What did you just say?" If you're loving this story, smash that like button and subscribe for more. The air on the terrace didn't just feel hot anymore, it felt radioactive. Linda covered her mouth with her hand, realizing she had just dropped a bomb that could blow up her entire family. I walked slowly back toward the table. My legs felt heavy, but my mind was sharpening into a razor blade. "Power of attorney?" I repeated, stopping right in front of Brad. "Brad, look at me." Brad was looking everywhere except at me. He looked at his shoes, at the empty wine bottle, at the horizon. He was sweating so much his polo shirt was sticking to his chest. It was nothing, Mom," Maya cut in, her voice shrill. "Linda is confused. She doesn't know what she's talking about. We were just discussing hypothetical scenarios in case you got sick, for your safety." "My safety?" I laughed, a harsh barking sound. "You told your mother-in-law I was senile? Is that why you asked me to sign those insurance update forms last month, the ones you said were urgent?" I saw the memory hit Brad's face like a physical slap. 3 weeks ago, he had come into my office with a stack of papers, smiling that winning smile, telling me the insurance premiums on the tractors would go up if I didn't sign right now. I was busy. I trusted him. I signed. "Julian," I said, not taking my eyes off my son-in-law, "check the county clerk's filing system right now." Julian was already typing on his tablet, his face grim. "Way ahead of you, Eleanor. I have a feeling I know what I'm going to find."
"Mom, stop!" Maya grabbed my arm. "You're being paranoid. We would never." "Got it," Julian interrupted, his voice cutting through Maya's lies like a knife. He turned the tablet screen toward me. There it was, a digital scan of a document, durable power of attorney, granting Bradley Miller full control over the assets and medical decisions of Eleanor Sterling. "Filed pending review 3 days ago," Julian read aloud. "Reason cited, incapacitation due to early onset dementia." The world tilted on its axis. "Dementia?" I whispered. I looked at Brad. "You tried to have me declared legally incompetent in my own house?" Brad finally snapped. The pressure was too much. He pointed a shaking finger at his father, Robert. "It was his idea," Brad yelled. "Dad said if we didn't get control of the assets before you sold or died, the taxes would kill us. He said you were too old to manage $20 million. He told me to do it." "You spineless coward!" Robert roared, standing up and knocking his chair backward. "Don't you pin this on me. You're the one who said the old hag was losing her marbles and didn't notice anything anymore." "Old hag?" Cyrus stepped in, uncrossing his arms. He wasn't smiling anymore. He looked dangerous. "Okay, playtime is over. Julian, is that document valid?" "Not anymore," Julian said, tapping the screen, "because Eleanor just sold the asset, and since she is clearly competent enough to sign a multi-million-dollar deal with witnesses, this filing is now evidence of attempted fraud, felony fraud to be specific." Linda let out a strangled sob. "Fraud? No, we are respectable people. Robert is a deacon at the church. We can't be involved in fraud." "Then you shouldn't have raised a thief for a son," I said, my voice trembling with rage. I looked at Maya, my daughter, the girl I had carried, raised, and loved more than life itself. She wasn't looking at Brad. She was looking at the tablet, her eyes calculating. "You knew," I said. It wasn't a question. Maya looked up. Her eyes were hard. "Mom, be realistic. You're 62. You spend all day in the dirt. Brad and I, we have vision. We could have turned Silver Creek into a global brand, but you wouldn't let go. You were holding us back." "Holding you back?" I felt a tear finally escape, hot and angry. "I gave you a job. I gave you a home, and you tried to steal my life while I was still living it." "We were doing you a favor," Maya screamed, losing all control. "We were going to put you in that nice facility in Santa Barbara. Ocean views. You would have been happy." "A nursing home?" I said, the words tasting like ash. "You were going to put me in a home and take the money." "And now," Julian said, closing his briefcase with a loud snap, "you're going to jail." "Jail?" Brad squeaked. "Oh, yeah." Julian smiled, but it was a shark smile. "Filing false legal documents? Elder abuse? Conspiracy to commit fraud? I'm going to enjoy prosecuting this, and I don't charge my friends," he nodded at me, "for destroying their enemies." Cyrus whistled. "Damn, this is better than Netflix." "Get out," I whispered. "What?" Maya blinked. "Get out," I screamed, a sound that came from the deepest part of my soul. "Get off my property, get out of my sight, before I let Cyrus's security team use you for target practice." "You can't kick us out," Linda yelled, grabbing her purse. "We have rights. We need time to pack." "Time is up," Cyrus said, checking his heavy gold watch. "My boys are at the gate, and they brought the dogs." But as they scrambled to grab their things, dragging their suitcases across the patio stones in a panic, a siren wailed in the distance, then another and another. Brad froze. He looked at the driveway. Blue and red lights were flashing through the vineyard rows. "You called the cops?" Brad whispered, looking at me with horror. "I didn't," I said, crossing my arms. We all turned to look at Cyrus. He was holding his phone up, a wicked grin on his face. "I might have sent a text to the sheriff," Cyrus shrugged. "I told him there were trespassers on my property refusing to leave, and I might have mentioned that one of them has an outstanding warrant in Nevada. Is that true, Robert?" Robert's face went white as a sheet. If you're loving this story, smash that like button and subscribe for more.
The gravel driveway, usually reserved for wine tours and delivery trucks, was now a disco of flashing blue and red lights. 2 deputies stepped out of the first cruiser, hands resting on their belts. Robert didn't even try to run. He just slumped against the patio railing, looking like a balloon that had lost all its air. "Robert Vance?" the sheriff asked, walking up the steps. He didn't look happy. He looked like a man who hated interrupting his lunch break. "This is a misunderstanding," Linda shrieked, stepping in front of her husband. "My husband is a respected businessman. We are guests of the owner." "The owner," Cyrus piped up, pointing a thumb at himself, "called you in, and the owner says you're trespassing." The sheriff nodded at Cyrus, then looked at his clipboard. "We'll get to the trespassing, but first, Mr. Vance, I have a warrant here from Clark County, Nevada, outstanding charges for wire fraud and running an unlicensed timeshare scheme." The silence on the terrace was absolute. Even the cicadas seemed to stop buzzing to listen. "Timeshare scheme?" Brad whispered, looking at his father. "Dad, you said you were in high-end real estate development." It's complicated, son," Robert stammered, sweat dripping off his nose. "The market turned. I was just moving funds around to cover the liquidity issues. I was going to pay it back." "You stole money?" Linda gasped. She backed away from him as if he had a contagious disease. "Robert, you told me that investigation was closed. You told me we were safe." "So that's why you needed my money," I said, putting the pieces together. I looked at Brad. "That's why you were so desperate to get control of the vineyard. You weren't just greedy, you were broke. You needed my assets to bail out your father's Ponzi scheme." Brad looked down at his shoes. He didn't deny it. The sheriff stepped forward. "Turn around, sir. Hands behind your back." The sound of handcuffs clicking shut was the loudest sound I had ever heard. It was the sound of their perfect family image shattering into a million pieces. "Linda, call the lawyer!" Robert yelled as they marched him down the stairs. "Call Henderson!" "I can't," Linda wailed, clutching her pearl necklace. "You told me not to pay the retainer last month to save cash." As they shoved Robert into the back of the cruiser, Linda collapsed into a chair, sobbing hysterically. She looked pathetic. The grand dame act was gone, replaced by a terrified woman realizing her credit cards were about to stop working. Cyrus leaned against the railing, sipping a Red Bull he had pulled from somewhere. "Man," he shook his head, "I almost feel bad." Almost. I turned my attention to the younger generation. Maya and Brad were standing apart from each other. They weren't holding hands. They weren't comforting each other. They were looking at each other with pure suspicion. "Well," I said, smoothing my dress, "Robert is going to jail, Linda is broke, and the house is sold." I stepped closer to Brad. "And you, Bradley," I said softly, "you have a problem." "Me?" Brad's voice squeaked. "I didn't do the timeshare stuff. That was Dad. I'm innocent." "Are you?" Julian, my lawyer, stepped forward again. He was holding that tablet like a weapon. "Because the sheriff isn't leaving yet, and I just forwarded a copy of that forged power of attorney to the district attorney's office." Brad's knees actually buckled. He had to grab the table from stopping from falling. But nothing happened," Brad pleaded, looking from me to the sheriff, who was now walking back up the stairs. "We
We didn't take any money yet. It was just paper. You can't arrest me for paper." "Attempted fraud is still fraud, son," the sheriff said, reaching for his belt again. "Bradley Miller, I need you to come with us to the station to answer some questions regarding elder abuse and forgery." "No!" Maya screamed. She rushed forward, but she didn't run to Brad. She ran to me. She grabbed my hands, her grip tight and desperate. Her eyes were wild. "Mom, stop this! Please! Tell them it was a mistake! Tell them you gave him permission! If Brad gets arrested, he loses his marketing license! We'll lose everything!" I looked at my daughter. I looked at her manicured hands gripping mine, hands that hadn't done a day of hard work in her life. "You already lost everything, Maya," I said, pulling my hands away. "You lost it the moment you decided I was disposable." "I'm your daughter," she cried. "You have to help us. Family helps family." "You're right," I said, "and right now I'm helping you learn a very expensive lesson." The deputy took Brad by the arm. "Let's go, sir." "Maya!" Brad yelled as he was dragged away, struggling weakly. "Call your rich friends! Get bail money!" Maya stood there, trembling, watching her husband and her father-in-law being loaded into police cars. Linda was still wailing in the chair. I thought it was over. I thought I had won. But then Maya wiped her tears. She straightened her spine, and suddenly the crying stopped. She turned to look at me, and the look in her eyes wasn't sadness. It was pure, cold hatred. "You think you've won, Mom? You think because you sold the house and called the cops you're free?" She reached into her purse and pulled out a set of keys. Car keys. "You forgot one thing," she said, a twisted smile forming on her lips. "The vineyard accounts, the business accounts. You added me as a signatory 3 years ago, remember? So I could learn the business." My heart stopped. I had forgotten. "I transferred it, Mom," she hissed, "while you were packing, while Brad was arguing. I transferred the operating cash, all of it." If you're loving this story, smash that like button and subscribe for more. The wind blew across the terrace, carrying the scent of drying grapes and impending disaster. Maya stood there, clutching her phone like it was a holy relic, a twisted smile plastered on her face. She thought she had just played the ace of spades. $500,000, Mom," Maya bragged, waving the phone in the air. "I transferred it to a private offshore account 5 minutes ago. You might have sold the land, but I took the cash. Consider it my severance package for being your slave all these years." Linda, who had been sobbing into a napkin, suddenly stopped. Her eyes lit up. You got the money, Maya? Honey, that's wonderful. We can hire a lawyer for Robert. We can fix this." I looked at my daughter. I didn't feel anger anymore. I just felt a deep, exhausting pity. She really thought she was smarter than me. She thought that because I wore gardening gloves and drove an old truck, I didn't know how modern banking worked. "Maya," I said, my voice quiet, "did you wait for the confirmation screen?" Maya rolled her eyes. "Oh, please, I know how to use an app, Mom. I hit transfer. It said processing. It's done. You're broke." "Processing," Julian repeated, stepping up beside me. He let out a low, dry chuckle. "I love that word. It's so ambiguous." "Shut up," Maya snapped at him. "I'm the majority shareholder now that I have the capital." "Actually," Julian said, adjusting his glasses, "I might want to check your notifications, specifically the one from the fraud department." Maya frowned. She looked down at her screen. I watched the color drain from her face. It started at her chin and went right up to her forehead, leaving her looking like a wax statue. "Account frozen?" she whispered. Her hand started to shake. access denied? What did you do?" "I didn't do anything," I said, pouring myself a glass of water from the pitcher on the table. "Cyrus did." Maya whipped her head around to look at Cyrus, who was leaning against the railing, scrolling through Instagram. "Me?" Cyrus looked up. "Oh yeah, standard procedure, babe. When I wired the $25 million for the purchase 30 minutes ago, my bank initiated a lockdown protocol on the receiving accounts. It's to prevent, well, exactly what you just tried to do, embezzlement by disgruntled employees." "Embezzlement?" Maya shrieked. "It's my family's money." "It's the company's money," Julian corrected her, his voice sharp. "And since the company was in the middle of an acquisition, attempting to drain the operating accounts is a federal crime. It's called wire fraud. And because the amount is over $10,000, he trailed off, looking toward the driveway. The sheriff, who had just finished shoving Brad into the back of the cruiser, hadn't left yet. He was standing by the open door, listening. He slowly closed the door, locked it, and turned around. He began walking back up the driveway toward the terrace. Maya saw the sheriff coming back. She looked at her phone. She looked at me. "Mom," she gasped, the arrogance vanishing instantly. "Mom, tell them it was a mistake. I didn't mean to steal it. I was just moving it for safekeeping because of the strangers." She pointed at Cyrus. "Safekeeping in an offshore account?" I asked, raising an eyebrow. "Maya, stop. Just stop." "I'm pregnant," she blurted out again, desperately. "You can't let me go to jail. I might really be pregnant this time. The test could have been wrong." "You just told us you got your period yesterday," Linda moaned from her chair. "You lying little snake. You ruined everything." "Me?" turned Maya on her mother-in-law. "You're the one who needed the money. You and your crook husband pressured us." "Ladies," the sheriff's voice boomed as he reached the top of the stairs. He hooked his thumbs into his belt. "Now, I couldn't help but overhear something about a $500,000 wire transfer. Now, usually, I'd need a warrant to investigate bank records, but since you just confessed to attempted grand larceny in front of a law enforcement officer," he pulled a second pair of handcuffs from his belt. "Maya Miller," he said sternly, "you have the right to remain silent, and I highly suggest you start using it." Maya backed away, bumping into the table. No, this isn't happening. I'm a victim here. My mother is abusing me." She looked for an escape route. The stairs were blocked. The house was blocked by me and Julian. The only way out was the vineyard. She looked at the rows of vines, she looked at her high heels, and then she made the worst decision of her life. She kicked off her shoes and bolted toward the railing. "She's a runner!" Cyrus shouted, sounding way too excited. "Get her!" Maya scrambled over the stone railing, tearing her expensive dress, and dropped into the flower bed below. She landed in the mud and started sprinting, limping, through the Cabernet vines. "Oh, for heaven's sake," I sighed. The sheriff sighed too. He didn't run, he just reached for his radio. "Dispatch, I got a runner, female, 30s, heading north through the grapevines. Send a unit to the service road." He looked at me. "Sorry about your rose bushes, ma'am." "It's okay," I said, watching my daughter stumble through the dirt she had refused to touch for years. "I'm putting in concrete anyway." I turned to go back inside. I was done. I wanted a cup of tea and silence. But Cyrus cleared his throat. Elle," he said, holding up a sleek black tablet he had retrieved from his car, "my security team just did a sweep of the guest house, checking for hazardous materials before the demo." "And?" I asked wearily. "Did they find Brad's stash of energy drinks?" "Not exactly." His face was serious now. "They found a hidden wall safe in the closet. It was open, and inside, there weren't any jewels." He turned the tablet around to show me a photo his team had just taken. Inside were stacks of passports, dozens of them, all with different names, and sitting right on top was a blueprint. I squinted at the screen. It wasn't a blueprint for a house. It was a blueprint for the vineyard's irrigation system, with red X's drawn over specific locations. "What is that?" I asked. "That," Julian whispered, leaning in close, "looks like they weren't just planning to sell the land, Eleanor. They were planning to sabotage it to force the price down before buying it themselves through a shell company." I felt a chill that had nothing to do with the wind. This went deeper than just greed. "Wait," Cyrus zoomed in on the photo. "What's that underneath the passports?" He tapped the screen. There, half hidden under a stack of fake IDs, was a small black notebook, and on the cover, written in Maya's handwriting, were two words that made my blood freeze: Mom's Medicine. If you're loving this story, smash that like button and subscribe for more.
Cyrus's security guard, a man built like a vending machine, jogged up the terrace stairs. He was holding the small black notebook in a plastic evidence bag. He handed it to Cyrus, who passed it to me like it was a live grenade. "Don't touch it with your bare hands, Elle," Cyrus warned, his voice grim. "If this is what I think it is, it's evidence." I took the bag. My hands were shaking. I looked at the cover. Mom's Medicine. It was written in Maya's bubbly, loop-de-loop handwriting, the same handwriting she used for birthday cards. I opened it to the first marked page. August 12th. Swapped the vitamin D for benzodiazepine, 10 milligrams. Result, Mom slept until noon, forgot to meet the distributor. Brad told the staff she was confusing her days. I gasped, covering my mouth. I remembered that day. I had woken up feeling like my head was stuffed with cotton. I missed a crucial meeting with our Napa distributor. I thought I was just getting old, losing my edge. I turned the page. September 4th. Upped the dosage. She left the stove on. Perfect. Dad filmed it for the competency hearing file. "Oh my God," I whispered. Tears blurred my vision, but these weren't tears of sadness. They were tears of pure horror. They weren't just waiting for me to die, they were poisoning me. "What?" Julian snatched the bag from my hand to look at the page. His face turned a terrifying shade of red. This is a log, a dosage log. They were systematically drugging you to mimic cognitive decline." "That's why you felt foggy." Julian looked at me, his eyes wide. "That's why you signed those papers without reading them closely. You weren't senile, Eleanor. You were sedated." Linda, who was still slumped in her chair, looked up. Her face was gray. "Drugging? No, Brad wouldn't. He's a good boy. He said you were just tired." "Your good boy and my daughter were gaslighting me into an asylum," I spat. "They were going to lock me away and drug me into a vegetable so they could sell my life's work for a quick payout." Just then, the sheriff's radio crackled. "Subject in custody, bringing her back to the main house." A moment later, a patrol car rolled slowly up the driveway. The back door opened and a deputy pulled Maya out. She looked nothing like the lady of the manor now. Her designer dress was ripped and covered in mud. Her expensive hair extensions were tangled with leaves. She was handcuffed, limping, and crying. They dragged her up the stairs. When she saw me, she didn't look ashamed. She looked defiant. "You happy now, Mom? You ruined my life. I'm going to jail because of you." "No, Maya," I said, my voice dead calm. I held up the evidence bag. "You're going to jail because of this." Maya froze, her eyes locked on to the black notebook. The defiance drained out of her instantly, replaced by sheer primal terror. "You found it?" she whispered. "We found it," Cyrus said, stepping forward. "And the pills in the safe, and the plan." I was just trying to relax you," Maya stammered, frantically looking for a lie.
It was just sleeping pills. It wasn't poison. It was a chemical lobotomy, Julian shouted, and you documented it. Do you have any idea how long you're going away for? Fraud is one thing. Attempted murder via poisoning, that's 20 to life. Murder? Maya shrieked. She looked at Linda. Linda, tell them. You knew. You told us to do whatever it takes to get the power of attorney. I didn't know about the pills, Linda screamed back, jumping up. I thought you were just convincing her. I didn't say kill her. You're all lying, Maya wailed, collapsing to her knees. I did it for us, for the family. Mom, please, I'm your daughter. I looked down at her, the girl I taught to ride a bike, the girl I nursed through the flu, the girl who had spiked my tea and watched me stumble around, laughing about it in a notebook. You're not my daughter, I said. You're a stranger, and strangers aren't welcome on private property. I turned to the sheriff. Get her out of here. As the deputy hauled Maya away, screaming and kicking, I felt a heavy hand on my shoulder. It was Cyrus. It's over, Elle, he said gently. They're gone. You're safe. I nodded, watching the police cars start to pull away, their lights fading into the twilight. It was over. Or so I thought. Suddenly, Linda stood up. She wasn't crying anymore. She was looking at the retreating police cars, then at me, and finally at Cyrus. A strange, desperate look crossed her face. Wait, Linda said, her voice trembling but loud. Sheriff, wait! Don't leave yet! The sheriff paused at the bottom of the stairs. Ma'am, unless you want a ride too, I suggest you quiet down. I have information, Linda said, walking to the railing. She pointed a shaking finger at the last car, the one holding Brad. If I give you this, will you cut a deal for Robert? Will you let my husband go? I don't make deals, the sheriff said, but the DA does. What do you have? Linda took a deep breath. She looked at me with eyes full of spite. The sabotage plans in the safe, they didn't draw them, and Maya didn't come up with the idea to poison Eleanor. Who did? Asked Julian. Linda smiled, a broken, bitter smile. It wasn't them, she whispered. It was the silent partner, the one who bankrolled Robert's timeshare scheme, the one who has been trying to buy this land for 5 years, but Eleanor kept saying no. She turned to look directly at Cyrus. It was you. The silence that followed Linda's accusation was heavy enough to crush a grape. All eyes turned to Cyrus, the tech bro in the hoodie, the man I had just sold my legacy to. Linda stood there, finger pointed, looking triumphant. It makes sense, she shouted, desperate to deflect blame. He's a developer. He wanted the land cheap. He probably paid Robert to ruin the crops so the value would tank. The sheriff turned to Cyrus, his hand resting near his holster. Mr. Vance, you want to answer that? Cyrus stared at Linda for a long, uncomfortable second. Then he threw his head back and laughed. It wasn't a nervous laugh. It was a deep belly laugh of pure disbelief. Wow, Cyrus wiped a tear from his eye. That is a Hail Mary pass if I've ever seen one. Lady, do you know how basic economics works? Excuse me? Linda blinked. I just paid $25 million cash for this place, Cyrus said, gesturing to the estate. If I was the silent partner trying to tank the value, why would I pay full market price today? If I was working with your crook husband, I would have waited until you guys poisoned Eleanor, destroyed the vines, and drove the price down to 0. Then I would have bought it for pennies. He stepped closer to her, his voice dropping the playful tone. I bought this place because I respect what Eleanor built, and I paid top dollar because I'm not a thief, unlike your family. Linda's mouth opened and closed like a fish out of water. Her last card had been played, and it was a joker. Nice try, ma'am, the sheriff said, shaking his head, but unless you have evidence, I suggest you step back. But
But how am I supposed to get home? Linda whimpered, looking at the empty driveway where her luxury SUV used to be. The keys were in Robert's pocket in the back of a police car. I don't have a car. I don't have any money. Start walking, I said, pointing toward the main road. It's a nice night for a hike. Motel 6 is about 4 miles that way. Linda looked at me with pure hatred one last time. You'll rot in hell for this, Eleanor. Maybe, I shrugged, taking a sip of my water, but at least I won't be in jail. Defeated, Linda turned and began the long, humiliating walk down the gravel driveway, her high heels crunching in the dirt. As the last police cruiser faded into the distance, carrying my daughter and her husband to a very different kind of gated community, the adrenaline finally left my body. I sagged against the table. You okay, Al? Cyrus asked, handing me a fresh napkin. I don't know, I admitted, looking at the empty terrace. I just sent my whole family to prison. I'm homeless, and I'm unemployed. Well, about that, Cyrus said, scratching the back of his neck. He looked a little sheepish. I was lying earlier. About what? About the concrete, he grinned. I'm not paving over the roses, and I'm definitely not tearing down the vines. I don't know the first thing about making wine. I just like drinking it. He kicked at a loose stone. I bought the place because I want to learn, but I need a teacher. I was thinking maybe you don't move out completely. I mean, the guest house is empty now that the trash has been taken out. You could stay on as a consultant, keep the bees, boss the crew around. It was a generous offer, a kind offer, to stay in my home, to keep my hands in the dirt I loved. I looked out at the vineyard. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of purple and gold. It was beautiful. It was my masterpiece. But then I thought about the notebook in the evidence bag, Mom's medicine. I thought about the years of sacrificing for Maya, the years of staying put to build a legacy for a daughter who wanted me dead. I realized that these vines didn't just hold grapes, they held ghosts. Thank you, Cyrus, I said softly, but no. No, he looked surprised. I built this place for a family that didn't exist. I've spent 40 years worrying about harvest rain and frost and market prices. I think I'm done farming. So what's the plan? Julian asked, snapping his briefcase shut. You have $25 million and a blank slate. I smiled, and for the first time in years, it reached my eyes. Do you know, I've never been to Italy. I make Italian-style wine, but I've never actually seen Tuscany. Tuscany is nice this time of year, Cyrus nodded. Then it's settled, I said. I'm going to eat pasta, I'm going to drink wine that I didn't make, and I'm going to sleep until noon without anyone drugging my tea. 1 month later, I sat at a small cafe table in Florence, watching the pigeons chase each other around the piazza. My phone buzzed. It was an email from Julian. Update. The DA accepted the plea deals. Maya and Brad got 15 years for attempted murder and fraud. Robert got 10 for the Ponzi scheme. Linda is currently working as a hostess at a diner in Reno. Also, Cyrus sent a photo. I opened the attachment. It was a picture of my rose garden back at Silver Creek. It was blooming, vibrant, and wild, and right in the middle was a small wooden sign Cyrus had put up. The Eleanor Sterling Reserve. I put the phone down. I didn't feel sad. I didn't feel guilty. I took a sip of Chianti. It was bold, robust, and full of life, just like me. I was alone in a foreign country, but I wasn't lonely. For the first time in my life, I wasn't a mother, a boss, or a victim. I was just Eleanor, and the view from here was perfect. This is the end of our story. Did Eleanor make the right choice by sending her daughter to jail? Or is family always family no matter what? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this ride, please like the video and subscribe to Mama Joyce's Chronicles for more stories of justice served cold. See you in the next one!